The first shot was not fired by humans. It came from deep space, from a fleet that belonged to the Zerath Dominion, a species older, stronger, and far more arrogant than humanity. For centuries, the Zerath had treated the galaxy like their hunting ground. Entire civilizations had been broken under their claws. To them, humans were nothing more than the next prey on their list. But this time, things would not go as expected. When the first Zerath warship appeared above Mars, humans did not beg for mercy. They did not hide in fear. They simply stared up at the night sky, confused but calm, while world governments scrambled to make sense of the invasion. The aliens did not waste time. Their opening message to Earth was short: submit or burn. The ultimatum reached every human screen, every radio, every device. For one long, heavy moment, silence gripped the planet. No one moved. No one spoke. Then, the humans laughed. It wasn't the laughter of madness. It was the kind of laugh that comes from workers who had survived wars, disasters, plagues, and still stood tall. The kind of laugh that said, "You think you scare us? You have no idea who we are." The Zerath could not understand it. No species had ever dared laugh at them. The first strikes came quickly. Alien plasma cannons rained fire on Earth's satellites, crippled communication towers, and smashed orbital defenses. Entire human fleets disappeared within hours. The Zerath believed the war would be finished in days, but humans have a strange habit. When they are cornered, when defeat seems certain, they do not collapse. They adapt. On the mining colonies of Titan, human workers turned drilling machines into weapons and rammed them into Zerath landing craft. On Earth itself, cities that had been burning suddenly came alive with resistance. Farmers turned tractors into armored vehicles. Engineers converted airplanes into bombers overnight. Soldiers and civilians fought side by side, refusing to surrender even when their homes turned to ash. The Zerath commander reported to his council with confusion. "These humans fight like no other prey. They are not coordinated, they are not advanced, and yet they do not break." For the first time in centuries, the Dominion's arrogance was shaken. The galaxy had seen the Zerath win countless wars. Everyone expected Earth to fall quickly, but reports began to spread of alien patrols ambushed by human traps, of Zerath soldiers hunted in the very forests they thought they had conquered, of small human ships outmaneuvering mighty war cruisers using tactics no machine could predict. A strange pattern began to emerge. Every time humans lost, they came back stronger. Every defeat was a lesson. Every scar was turned into a weapon. The Zerath tried to calculate this behavior. Their scientists ran simulations, predicting human surrender within weeks. But the simulations always failed, because the Zerath had forgotten one simple truth. Humans were survivors. On Earth, they had faced extinction many times before. Ice ages, predators, plagues, wars. Yet each time they had risen again, sharper, tougher, and more dangerous. And now, they were facing something far worse than nature. They were facing the Dominion. The Zerath thought themselves unstoppable. But humans had something the aliens had never seen before: unity through struggle. Nations that had been rivals for centuries suddenly fought as one. Soldiers who had been enemies now stood shoulder to shoulder. The invasion had given humanity a single cause: survival, and survival was the one thing humans were masters of. The turning point came at the Battle of Earth's orbit. The Zerath sent a massive fleet to finish the war. Their ships darkened the skies. Their weapons glowed with the power to level continents. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see humanity's final hour. Instead, something happened that no one could explain. The humans did not wait for the aliens to attack. They charged first. Fragile-looking ships, old battleships, even converted freighters, every craft humanity had, launched into the void. They moved like predators, weaving between plasma blasts, ramming warships, tearing holes in the Dominion's perfect formations. The Zerath fleet had expected prey. Instead, they met hunters. When dawn broke over Earth the next morning, wreckage rained from the sky. Half the human fleet was gone, but so was nearly all of the Zerath armada. Humanity had paid in blood, but they had survived. In the council chambers of the Dominion, silence reigned. One commander finally whispered, "This species, They are not like the others. They are chaos made flesh. The war that was supposed to last days had now begun for real, and the galaxy would learn something terrifying. If you mess with humans, you won't survive. The Dominion believed humans had won only by accident. Their council told themselves the same lie again and again. One lucky battle. Nothing more. But luck had nothing to do with it. The humans had tasted alien blood for the first time, and now they were ready to fight back. It began in silence. On a remote Zerath outpost, a single Dominion ship was refueling. Its crew moved without fear. Why should they? No species had ever dared to strike them inside their own territory. To them, the humans were still broken prey, licking their wounds back on Earth. Then the alarms began to scream. From the darkness of space, tiny human crafts appeared. Old freighters, mining ships, even cargo haulers, vessels that should not have been able to fight. Yet each one carried hidden weapons. Missile pods welded to their sides. Plasma cannons ripped from wrecks. Explosives packed inside cargo bays. The humans were not attacking like soldiers. They were attacking like survivors, using everything, wasting nothing. The outpost commander laughed when he saw the first ships. Pathetic. This is not an attack. This is desperation. But his laughter died when the humans struck. The freighters broke formation, scattering like wolves around a herd. Their movements were wild, unpredictable, impossible for Dominion computers to track. One by one, they slammed missiles into fuel depots, destroyed hangars, and disabled the outpost's main defense grid. Then came the moment no one could forget. One old cargo ship, burning from alien fire, refused to fall back. Instead, it turned toward the Dominion flagship. Its engines roared, its hull glowing red. The crew inside gave no last speech, no warning. They simply locked course and rammed. The explosion ripped the flagship in half. Thousands of alien soldiers died in an instant. The galaxy would later call it madness. Humans called it sacrifice. The first strike was small compared to the Dominion's endless fleets, yet its effect was far greater than any general could measure. For the first time in centuries, the Zerath Dominion lost an outpost to an enemy. For the first time, they faced an opponent who did not fear death. The humans did not just fight, they chose to fight. Even when outnumbered, even when outgunned, the survivors of the first strike escaped into the black of space. Their ships were damaged, their crews exhausted, but their message spread faster than light. The humans had taken the war into the aliens' territory. The galaxy shivered. Back on Earth, command centers lit up with cheers as the reports arrived. Humanity had struck back, and it had worked. But no one was celebrating for long. The humans knew the Zerath would retaliate with fury. In a hidden bunker beneath London, generals met with scientists and engineers. Maps glowed on holographic tables, showing alien fleets moving like storms across the stars. "They'll come for us harder now," one general said. "Good," another replied. "That means we get to hit them again." The scientists explained that every piece of alien wreckage from the first strike had been collected. Weapons, armor, power cells, everything was being studied, dismantled, rebuilt. What would take the Dominion centuries, humans could do in weeks. One scientist whispered something the room never forgot. "Humans don't need to be stronger. We just need to learn faster." Meanwhile, on the Dominion's capital world, the Council of War seethed with anger. The outpost commander who survived was dragged before them in chains. "How did this happen?" demanded the high strategist. "They fought with madness," the commander stammered. "They fight as if death is nothing. We could not predict them. They are chaos." The council silenced him with a single command: execution. The message was clear. Failure against humans was no longer tolerated. But in private, even the high strategist confessed his fear. "If they are chaos," he muttered, "then how do we ever defeat them?" The first strike changed everything. It proved humans were not prey. It proved they could fight in the enemy's own territory. And it proved they would not stop, no matter the cost. For the Dominion, it was a warning. For humanity, it was only the beginning. 1 week later, a new human fleet gathered above Earth. Soldiers who had never met shook hands and swore oaths. Scientists stood beside engineers, loading weapons they had only finished hours before. Pilots strapped into ships that looked broken but carried hidden surprises. They were not the biggest fleet. They were not the strongest fleet, but they were the most dangerous fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Because they were human. And humans had just learned the taste of victory. The Zerath Dominion had fought thousands of wars. They had crushed species with claws sharper than steel, with minds faster than machines, with armies larger than planets. But they had never faced this. After the first strike, Dominion scientists studied every report of human behavior. They scanned battles, dissected wreckage, even interviewed surviving soldiers. Their conclusion was always the same. Humans are weak. They should not be winning, and yet, the humans kept winning. The high strategist demanded answers. What is their weapon? Where is the hidden technology? What are we missing? The answer came from a captured human prisoner. The alien interrogators strapped him to a metal chair, lights burning into his face. They expected him to beg, to reveal secret codes, to betray his people. Instead, the soldier smiled with cracked lips. "You still don't get it, do you?" he whispered. The alien leaned closer. "Get what?" The soldier's eyes burned with fire. "We are the weapon." Then he bit down on the capsule hidden in his tooth. His last act was not surrender, but defiance, the blast tearing through the chamber, taking his captors with him. The Zerath finally began to understand. Humanity's true weapon was not a machine, not a bomb, not even a ship. It was the human spirit, a force they could not measure, could not predict, could not break. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the truth was becoming clear to humans too. In a hidden mountain base, commanders gathered around maps glowing with alien positions. Generals argued over tactics, scientists argued over weapons. But one old veteran stood quietly watching them. When silence fell, he finally spoke. "You're all missing it. It's not about ships. It's not about guns. It's about us, about what we can endure, about what we can become when the universe tells us we can't survive." The room went silent. Every man and woman there felt the weight of his words. Humanity had always been underestimated, even by themselves. And yet from caves to fire, from plagues to wars, from oceans to stars, they had always endured. The Zerath would be no different. The next battles proved it. On the frozen world of Chorus, Zerath armies deployed armored beasts that had destroyed whole civilizations. Humans had no equal machines. Instead, they lured the beasts into thin ice and collapsed the frozen sea beneath them. On the desert moon of Phoros, humans faced Dominion snipers who could see through sandstorms. Humans fought back by blinding themselves with cloth and trusting only sound, moving like shadows where sight was useless. On a captured Dominion cruiser, humans discovered a terrifying truth. The aliens depended heavily on rigid protocols. Every soldier followed exact orders. Every ship used exact formations, predictable and humans. Humans broke every rule. One pilot ignored standard tactics and slingshotted his fighter through the debris of a broken moon, using gravity to tear apart 3 alien ships. Another squad pretended to retreat, then detonated explosives inside their own abandoned ships, turning them into flying traps. The Zerath called it chaos. Humans called it creativity. The Dominion Council gathered again, frustration boiling over. "These humans are dangerous," one scientist admitted. "They are primitive," another snapped. "They are survivors," whispered the youngest among them. "And survival may be the most advanced skill of all." The council fell silent. For the first time, they considered that perhaps this war was not going to be easy. But the humans were only beginning to reveal their secret. In the dark fields of space, human engineers worked day and night, reverse engineering alien tech. They fused it with Earth's machines in ways the Dominion never imagined. Plasma cannons powered by human reactors, shields boosted with old nuclear designs, computers modified with messy but brilliant human code. The result was ugly, crude, unstable. But it worked. Human ships began to look like monsters, patched together from alien scrap. Running on sheer willpower, they were nothing like the sleek Dominion war cruisers. But when battle came, the human ships fought harder, lasted longer, and always struck back. The galaxy began to whisper. Other species, long enslaved by the Dominion, watched with wide eyes. No one had ever defied the Zerath. No one had ever made them bleed like this. And now, humans, weak, fragile humans, were doing the impossible. Rebellion stirred. Slaves began to dream. The humans had become more than warriors. They had become a symbol. The Dominion grew desperate. They unleashed new weapons, darker and crueler than before. Entire cities on Earth burned. Millions died, but every death only made humanity harder. In the ashes of ruined cities, humans carved these words into walls, into rubble, into memory. We are still here. And that was the truth of their weapon. The Dominion had numbers. They had strength. They had power, but humans had something far greater. They had the will to fight on when all hope was gone. They had the hunger to adapt, to twist every loss into a victory. They had the rage of survival burning in their blood. That was humanity's secret weapon, and the Dominion was beginning to fear it. For months, the Zerath Dominion had thrown fleets at Earth. For months, humanity had bled. Cities were gone, colonies were ash, whole oceans poisoned with alien fire, and yet, humanity stood. The galaxy could not believe it. No prey had ever lasted this long. No species had ever taken this much punishment and still fought back. The Zerath were stronger. The Zerath were richer. The Zerath were older. But slowly, painfully, the war began to shift. It started small. A single human ship appeared where no Dominion scanners had detected it. It slid out of the void behind a Zerath patrol, and in seconds the patrol was gone. Not damaged, not crippled, gone. The Dominion commanders replayed the footage again and again. It made no sense. Human ships were supposed to be slower, weaker. How had they bypassed scanners? How had they vanished into nothing? The answer was terrifying. Humans had learned how to turn captured Zerath cloaking tech into something new, something unstable but deadly. Where the Zerath had used it for hiding scouts, humans had turned it into a weapon of surprise. Every wreck they studied, every tool they stole, they didn't copy it. They improved it. Then came the Battle of Rallis. The Zerath sent 3 fleets, enough to crush a world. They surrounded the human resistance, confident the war would finally end. But the humans had learned patience. They didn't fight head-on. They didn't charge. Instead, they vanished into asteroid belts and dark nebulae. They let the Dominion fleet spread out, searching. And when the aliens were stretched thin, the humans struck. Small ships darted from the shadows, hitting weak points with precision. Fuel depots exploded. Command ships vanished in ambushes. Entire formations collapsed, not because of brute force, but because humans fought like predators circling prey. One Zerath commander screamed over comms, "They are not prey. They are hunters." By the end of the battle, 3 Dominion fleets were wreckage drifting in space. The humans had lost ships too, but their victory echoed across the stars. The galaxy watched in shock. This was not survival anymore. This was dominance. The humans were no longer the hunted. They were turning the tables. Inside the Dominion Council chamber, fear rippled through the high ranks. "This is impossible," hissed the high strategist. They were nothing. They were children. A younger officer spoke carefully. "They learn faster than any species we've faced. They take our strength and make it theirs. They use our rules against us." The strategist's claws tightened around the table. "Then we end this. Totalva. Burn their worlds until nothing remains." But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. Total war was exactly what humans were built for. On Earth, humanity gathered. Pilots who had survived dozens of battles now taught rookies tricks no simulator could predict. Soldiers built traps out of nothing. Forests, deserts, mountains all became weapons. Engineers forged ships that looked broken but fought like demons. And most dangerous of all, humanity united. Old rivalries vanished. Nations that had hated each other for centuries now fought side by side. It was no longer Earth versus the Zerath. It was humanity versus extinction, and extinction was not an option. The turning point came with Operation Eclipse. For the first time, humanity took the fight to the Dominion home systems. A fleet of patched-together human ships jumped into Zerath space. They should have been slaughtered instantly. Instead, they cut through defenses like blades through paper, because humans didn't fight like anyone else. Where the Zerath used formations, Humans used chaos. Where the Zerath used fear, humans used fury. Where the Zerath planned for logic, humans attacked with madness. They hit shipyards, fuel lines, even communication hubs. In a single night, half the Dominion's inner systems were in panic. One Dominion officer, trembling, whispered what the galaxy already knew. They don't follow rules. They are the storm. The news spread. Other enslaved species began to rise. They saw the impossible, humans defeating the undefeatable, and they believed. Rebellion fled across the galaxy. Chains broke, empires shook, and at the center of it all stood humanity. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the smartest, but because they refused to lose. The Dominion was still vast, their armies still countless, their fleets still mighty, but the tables had turned. For the first time, the Zerath were not the hunters. They were the ones being hunted, and humanity was only just getting started. The Zerath Dominion had ruled the stars for centuries. Their name alone had been enough to crush rebellions before they began. Whole species had surrendered at the mere sight of a Dominion warship. But now, when soldiers whispered in the barracks and officers gathered in shadows, the word on their lips was no longer victory, it was fear. The first strike had been dismissed as a fluke. The Battle of Rallis had been explained as bad luck. But after Operation Eclipse, no excuses remained. Humans were no longer surviving. They were winning. Reports spread like fire through the Dominion. Patrols disappearing without trace. Fleets ambushed in their own territory. Ships destroyed by tactics no computer could predict. The official messages called the humans chaotic but weak. The rumors told another story. Soldiers whispered of human ships that vanished into the dark and reappeared behind their enemies. Of humans who fought even after their bodies were broken. Of commanders who used death itself as a weapon. One rumor chilled them most of all, that humans smiled in battle. On a mining moon far from Earth, a Zerath squad was stationed to guard resources. They were veterans, hardened killers. But when they heard a single human transmission cut across the comms, just a few words, spoken calm and steady, panic spread like poison. "We are coming." That night, half the squad deserted. The rest fired blindly into the shadows, seeing enemies where none existed. In the morning, they were all dead. The mining moon had fallen, not from superior weapons, but from fear. Back in the Dominion capital, the high strategist slammed his claws onto the war table. These are lies. Humans are not gods. They are flesh and bone like us. But even as he roared, he could not silence the trembling in his own voice. Because every fleet he sent returned smaller, or didn't return at all. Every soldier who survived spoke of the same nightmare. The humans do not stop. The fear spread beyond soldiers. Merchants raised prices, afraid to carry supplies near human territory. Governors of distant colonies begged for reinforcements. Families of officers prayed their sons would not be sent to the human front. Even the scientists who once mocked humanity now grew silent, staring at data that made no sense. Human adaptation rates defied calculation. They learned faster than machines. They changed faster than viruses. The Dominion had faced strong enemies before, but humans were something different. Humans were unpredictable, and unpredictability was the one thing the Dominion could not control. Meanwhile, in the far reaches of space, enslaved species began to whisper, if humans could fight back, why couldn't they? If humans could kill Dominion fleets, maybe the Dominion wasn't unstoppable after all. On the world of Valaris, slaves painted human symbols onto walls. On Corran, rebels carried human flags into secret meetings. For the first time in generations, hope returned to the galaxy. And hope was more dangerous than any weapon. In a hidden Dominion outpost, an officer recorded a private message before battle. If anyone finds this, know this truth. We are not fighting humans. We are fighting something inside them. Something we cannot see. They bleed, but they do not break. They fall, but they rise again. Every time we kill one, two more appear. Every time we win, they turn the loss against us. I fear they are teaching the galaxy that the Dominion can be defeated. The officer's message ended there. His ship was never seen again. On Earth, humanity understood what was happening. Fear is a weapon, one commander said. And now it belongs to us. Soldiers painted skulls on their helmets, grinned at enemy broadcasts, and sent taunting messages across Dominion channels. They didn't just fight the aliens, they haunted them. Every strike, every ambush, every trap carried the same message: you are not safe anywhere. The galaxy had never seen such a reversal. For centuries, the Dominion had been the nightmare. Now, humans were the monsters in the dark. Alien children woke screaming, whispering of human shadows. Dominion soldiers flinched at static on the comms, afraid it was another human trick. And across the stars, one truth spread faster than any fleet, faster than any fire. If you mess with humans, you will not survive. The High Strategist called his council again. His voice shook as he spoke. If fear spreads any further, we lose the war. Not to weapons, not to numbers, but to belief. And deep in his heart, he already knew. The war was slipping from their hands. Because once fear takes root, it cannot be stopped. For months, humans had fought like cornered animals. They had endured, adapted, survived. But survival was no longer enough. Now humanity was ready to strike back. The plan was whispered in hidden bunkers on Earth, in asteroid stations, in underground colonies. It was simple, brutal, and completely insane. Exactly the kind of plan no alien computer could predict. Operation Revenant. The name spread like fire among human soldiers. Revenant, the one who returns from death, and that was humanity's promise to the galaxy. No matter what the Dominion destroyed, humans would rise again. The Dominion still believed they held the upper hand. Their fleets were countless, their armies endless. But they had grown cautious. Ships that once patrolled boldly now traveled in tight formations. Colonies once proud now built walls of fear. That was when the humans struck. The first blow landed on the industrial world of Valkar, a place the Dominion thought untouchable, guarded by 5 fleets. When alarms blared, the Zerath commanders expected another ambush, another hit and run. What they saw instead froze them in terror, an entire human fleet, not scavengers, not scattered survivors. A fleet, massive, unified, bristling with weapons. Ships patched from wreckage, painted with scars, glowing with human ingenuity. Old freighters reborn as warships. Civilian craft carrying cannons stolen from Dominion cruisers. Carriers holding swarms of fighters, engines screaming with rage. It was not polished. It was not elegant. It was terrifying, because it was human. The humans did not attack in straight lines. They came from every angle, above, below, behind. Fighters darted through tight spaces Dominion pilots would never risk. Suicide rams shattered shields. Missiles launched in unpredictable waves. One commander shouted, "They're not following tactics, they're inventing them." Within hours, Valkar burned. The Dominion lost more ships in one day than in the last 5 wars combined, and humans didn't stop there. One by one, Dominion strongholds fell. On the frozen moon of Rin, humans tunneled under defenses, erupting from the ice like ghosts. On the gas world of Thexus, they hijacked Dominion weather control, turning storms into weapons. On the orbital shipyards of Varen, they didn't just capture the stations, they used them to build more ships, faster than the Dominion could destroy them. Every victory spread panic. Dominion soldiers began refusing orders to fight humans. Fleets retreated at the first sign of a human transmission. The galaxy watched in disbelief. For centuries, the Zerath Dominion had been the predator. Now they were the prey, and the humans? They were hunting, but the most shocking strike came at the Dominion's very heart. The human fleet jumped into the skies above Karath, the Dominion capital world itself. No enemy had ever reached this far. The alien leaders thought the attack impossible. The humans proved them wrong. Instead of attacking directly, the humans broadcast a message across every channel, every frequency. It was not threats. It was not demands. It was a single voice, a human soldier, calm and steady, speaking to the entire galaxy. You called us prey. You thought we were weak. You burned our homes, you killed our children, and you laughed. But we are still here, and now we are coming for you. This is your only warning. Leave us alone, or learn why you will not survive us. The transmission ended. And then the fleet attacked. The battle over Karath was chaos. Dominion ships tried to form walls of fire, but humans cut through them like knives. They ignored formations, broke every rule of combat. They didn't fight for territory. They fought to break the enemy's soul, and they succeeded. When the smoke cleared, Karath still stood, but its fleets were shattered, its leaders humiliated, and its people trembling. The Dominion had been wounded in its own heart. In the aftermath, one alien officer recorded a secret report. These humans, they do not seek survival. They seek victory. They do not just fight. They create fear, hope, chaos all at once. Their true weapon is not technology. It is not numbers. It is belief. They believe they cannot lose, and now, I fear they are right. Across the galaxy, rebellions erupted. Species once enslaved by the Dominion rose in fire and fury, emboldened by the human counterattack. The Zerath had unleashed a storm they could not control, and humanity was no longer defending. Humanity was advancing. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy finally understood the terrible truth. If you mess with humans, you will not survive. The galaxy was no longer the same. The Zerath Dominion, once the terror of 1,000 worlds, now limped in shadows. Fleets once called invincible were rusting wrecks. Colonies once full of arrogance were empty ruins. Their people whispered one word with shaking voices: humans. For centuries, the Dominion had written the laws of war. But now humanity had rewritten them. The Council of the Zerath gathered in their grand chamber, voices sharp, fear thicker than the air. How can this be? One elder demanded. They were weak, soft-skinned, short-lived, fragile. Fragile things, another whispered. Break sharp. Silence fell. No one dared deny it. For the first time in their long history, the Dominion realized it was not their enemy's weapons that had beaten them. It was something far more dangerous. It was the human will. Across the galaxy, enslaved species rose in rebellion. Some fought with crude rifles, others with bare hands. All carried the same symbol, the mark of Earth. Humans had not only fought for themselves. They had ignited a fire that burned through the stars. On distant Valaris, rebels shouted a new saying as they charged into battle. Be human! Fight back. On Quran, children painted human faces on walls, smiling through fire and smoke. The galaxy had found something it had never known before: hope. And the humans? They did not claim thrones. They did not enslave the conquered. They did not demand worship. They simply stood, scarred and bloodied, and spoke the words that shook the universe. Leave us alone, or we will come again. That was the lesson. The Zerath sent envoys to beg for peace. It was unthinkable, Dominion ships bowing to humans, but they had no choice. When the human delegation arrived, they wore no crowns, no golden robes, no jewels. Their uniforms were plain, their ships patched, their faces tired. But their eyes burned with something no alien could meet for long. Strength born from struggle. The Zerath leaders asked, voice trembling, "What are you?" The human commander answered quietly, "We are the species you should never have provoked. We are what happens when prey decides to fight back. We are what happens when the galaxy underestimates humanity." He paused, letting the silence cut deeper than any blade. We are the lesson. The galaxy studied that lesson for years to come. Not the lesson of bigger guns, or stronger ships, or clever strategies, but the lesson of human nature. Humans were fragile, yes. They could be wounded. They could be broken, but they never stayed down. They adapted. They endured. They turned pain into fire, scars into strength, losses into victories. Against a species like that, numbers did not matter. Technology did not matter. Even fear did not matter, because humans had already looked into the abyss and laughed. On Earth, survivors rebuilt cities from ruins. Children played in craters where once alien fire had fallen. Soldiers laid down rifles, planting gardens in fields where blood once flowed. And yet, every scar remained as a warning. When young recruits asked the veterans, "How did we win against the Dominion?" The old ones answered with simple words, "Because we refused to lose." The Dominion never fully recovered. Their empire fractured, their slaves freed, their pride broken. In time, their name faded into history, a ghost of what once was, but humanity's name. Humanity's name became legend. The galaxy no longer called them weak. no longer called them prey, they called them survivors. They called them predators. They called them the storm. And so the story spread, told in 100 tongues, on 1,000 worlds. If you mess with humans, you will not survive. That was the final lesson. A lesson written not in books, but in fire, blood, and unbreakable will, and the galaxy would never forget it. The end.